Awesome. Well, Corey, thanks for taking time out of your day to speak with us. I know you're a hardworking man. You got a lot of things on your plate, and I just appreciate it. You've been such a big part of our group. So I know a lot of people are excited to be a part of, interact with you on this webinar just because you're such a big, awesome voice in the group. And I really do appreciate it as being kind of the founder of it. You have contributed so much and added so much value to it. It's always great to see your name pop up. So thanks for joining me. And this was an easy choice for me to reach out to you because I was like, Corey,
Thanks, man.
Corey's one of those guys that always is active. And the nice thing I really like about you is that you're not 10 years in the game. You haven't been in it that long and you found a lot of success really early on. And I think a lot of people in the group will find a lot of value in that. So thanks for joining us. And I'm going to start I'll ask you a few questions and would love to kind of hear your story to some extent, but also how much value we can drive to our members, and feel free to take this wherever you please.
Well, make sure we let the guests know that if they watch this live, they got to pay $50, and if they rewatch it, I'll rewatches are $25. The other podcasts you did were free, so this one charges.
Yeah, we got the salesman coming out already. I love it. I love it. So let's kind of talk about your first deal. So I think the first deal is really fascinating because you're kind of coming in, at least I did, 4 years ago, didn't have much knowledge. I didn't really know what I was doing. And kind of how's your approach to it? Like, how did you look at it? How did you analyze it? And how did you even come across that to realize like, oh, mobile home parks actually has something here? Or was this something that you just learned about, or did you stumble into it?
Well, it's actually a 100, people use the term stumble, but this was a 100% stumble. So I actually was a huge fan of John Fedro.
Yep.
Fedro, whatever his name is. John Fedro, he remodels mobile homes, and, he claims you can become a millionaire. And so, of course, I was reading the Deals on Wheels by Lonnie Scruggs, and I knew nothing about mobile home parks. I just knew I wanted to flip houses. And at that time, I had about 50 grand saved up. So I stopped at this park right in my hometown, and I was talking to the owner, and I said, hey, I'm going to take these 10 homes you got here, and I'm going to fix them all up, and I'm going to rent them. And he said, Corey, I'm too old for that. I'm 85 years old. Just buy the whole park for me. I'm like, well, I can't do that because I don't have the credit at the time to even buy a park. And he's like, no, I'll seller finance it. And I was like, well, what does that even mean? I didn't even know what that meant. And he's like, well, you give me money and I carry the loan. I'm like, well, I don't have enough. And he's like, well, what do you got? I was like, 50 grand. He's like, well, you need walking around money. So give me 40. And I'll finance the difference. And I was like, all right, cool. I guess I'm going to buy a mobile home park. So I bought it. And then obviously I had, 60 days of due diligence or whatever. And I started reading Frank and Dave's books and watching their videos and,
wow.
kind of preparing that way. So, we raised the rents and, hauled in a bunch of homes. And we are actually about 30 days out from the sale of that. I love the park. It's, 99% collection rate. So I didn't want to be bought out altogether.
Yeah.
But we bought that at $250.
Yeah.
And we just sold 50. We're selling 50% of it for $400,000. So we did pretty well on it.
Awesome. Wow. That's great. I love stories like that. And so where was this park in relation to where you were?
So actually this park was about 5 miles from where I lived. I used to actually have a family member that lived in it. I'm from a poor family. So, I grew up in a trailer park up until I was about 10 or 11. And
wow.
So I've actually lived it, right?
So you actually grew up in a mobile home park?
Yeah, my dad and my mom both owned, when they got divorced, they both moved to different trailer parks. And so that was about till I was 12.
That's fascinating. Okay. And so you're kind of familiar with it, but from like an investment standpoint, that wasn't something that ever kind of ran into your mind.
Right. Yeah.
And so one thing I like about you, I'm going to jump all over the place. So Corey is very talented at getting seller financing, and you said seller financing here, and I'm guessing you learned about it here and you're like, wow, this is great. I'd want this every time.
Every time.
Why would I go another route if I could get seller financing every single time? And you've done a very good job. So of the deals that you have now, what percentage of them are seller carry?
So we have 4 that are seller financed, one of which we got for $25,000 down on 25 tenants only, but all their rents are $150 below market. We're talking about massive returns. But to get the seller financing, a lot of people will just, again, because, and there is a sales side to this. And, when people say they hate selling stuff, but they're in the mobile home park world, I'm like, That doesn't really add up for me because, people will say, oh, let's say Mr. Seller Ian here, he says, oh, I want 500,000. You say, oh, well, Ian, would you do seller financing? No. Oh, okay. And then you kind of reevaluate the deal. I don't work it like that. I'll even because I do a warm up with them. And if any of you guys are in the sales business, you kind of know what a warm up is. It's basically just becoming their friend so that you can talk to them in a more not disrespectful way, but you can be more blunt with them, more friendly with them. Yeah. So you say, well, look, I can give you the 500,000 that you're looking for, Ian. And then what? You pay the government, 150,000 and you're going to stick it in a treasury stock for what, 2%. I said, you're too smart to do that, Ian. You're way too smart to do something like that. But look, you want 500,000, I'll up it to 550 if you do seller financing, or I'll just pay you out in cash and you can give Uncle Sam some money. It's up to you.
Interesting. So with attractive seller financing, obviously it's non-recourse. You can probably get a longer amortization than if you did local financing. You're like, I'll even increase the price so you sweeten the deal that way.
Well, yeah, because for me, I'm not the typical investor that's, some guys that do this and good for them. That's fine. But for me, like I said, I kind of came up on my own savings. So once I bought my first park, I was dead broke. I have a good job. I still do have a job that I really love, but I was dead broke. So I had to figure out a way to buy parks and also sell my investors on letting me stay in the deal without putting in any more money. And what better way than to say, you don't need to go to a bank. So you're no more valuable than me really, except that you have the money. I'm bringing the financing, I'm bringing the deal, and I'm going to run the deal. All of a sudden I become way more powerful than even the investor is at that point.
Interesting. So you used your, I guess, what it looks like a lower position in terms of a leverage, and you turned it into a positive. And so you said, I'm the fulcrum of this deal to actually make it work, Mr. Investor. Like, you're not going to do this work. This is obviously very hard work to get done. And for the investor, for the owner, they want to get rid of it. So it's like you're able to merge the two in a way that other people wouldn't be able to do. That's fascinating because the thing I love about what you do is everyone always says in commercial real estate, oh, I don't have any money, I can't get started. And it's like, you're showing that that's not the case. Like, you can get started. You just have to be creative and you have to be willing to work and like think about things in a different way. So when people say that, and if you think it's someone who actually has like really understands that, they actually could get it done if they just shifted their mindset. What do you tell someone when they're saying you can't get started in commercial real estate if you have $0?
So the person who made up the saying, and this is something that I can just say off the cuff here because I say it so much. The person who said it takes money to make money is a guy that's really rich that didn't want you to try. Okay. That is my honest to God belief, because that kind of mindset is just trash. It's 100% not correct. You do not need money. It was like I was kind of almost I don't think it was in your group, but it was in another group. These people were like, oh, I found this park, but I don't have the money. And I said, well, if you have a great deal, getting the money is easy. And they were shocked. They're like, getting money is easy. And they were just totally shocked and thought that I was just the stupidest person on earth for saying that. And it's like, the takes money to make money thing is just non-existent as far as what my experience has been in the. Don't get me wrong, when my park sells, I would love to put in more money, but with my money, it'll come to be more equity. So I'm okay doing that. I don't always want to be the guy putting in zero because I get less percentage, right? But yeah, no, if you're holding yourself back because you don't have money, then you're missing the boat. And it's like, if my fiance was here with us, I said, hey, we're going to buy this first park. We'll be broke. And then in 5 years, we'll refinance and we'll be able to make another one. And it was within 6 months that I realized that was the stupidest thing I ever said. I'm going to own, 1,000 lots before this park even sells. You know what I mean? Right. So it's definitely don't shy away from getting into the game because you don't have any money.
Okay. So let's push on this a little bit more. So assuming you don't have money, right? Like, so it sounds like you came from a background where, you didn't know a lot of people that had money. And right. So how do you start to make those connections?
For me was that I had a park and I was able to say, hey, I bought this park at 20 tenants. The lot rent was $220. It's now $310. We've hauled in these homes. So but that's number one. But number two is by participating in groups like yours, going to the boot camp, just where you meet people, it doesn't matter what state you're in, every state except Hawaii has a manufactured housing association. It's $300 a year. If you don't even own a park, join it and then go to their conventions and go up to these people. You'll know who the important ones are there, I promise you. And you go up to those people. And I did this. I mean, at the Michigan Manufactured Housing Association, at that time, I was 6 months into owning my park. Hardly anyone was taking me serious, but I had a plan. And I was going up to people, letting them know that I was going to be finding parks and I wanted their numbers so that I could pitch them to them. And if they were in the market for buying. And then they'd usually say, you know, hey, what kind of parks are you looking for? I'd say, I'm looking for anything that you're looking for. Tell me what you're looking for. That's what I'll go find. Now, I never did any deals with those people because I started meeting other people, and now I kind of have a cluster of investors that I like to work with, preferably because I know they can close. But yeah, that would be my advice. I mean, if you have, you know, $2,500 in the bank, it's like Grant Cardone always says, you know, if you have only $2,500 in the bank, there ain't much you can invest that in. Go invest in yourself. Buy a ticket to the boot camp. Go to the Louisville Manufactured Housing Association. If you only have $2,500, you're already broke. So invest in yourself and get richer mentally and professionally.
Yeah, that's great advice. So do you think that having that first park gave you, if you didn't have that, you would have found another way though, right? Like if you knew mobile home parks was it. I know some people are like, oh, well, he had his first park.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing is, that's the small-minded people that will be watching this and they'll say, oh, well, he got lucky on his first one. No, I did not. I'm out there driving, talking, meeting with owners. And then when the opportunity arose, I prepared myself to make sure that I was ready. And then when I bought that one, I also prepared myself to expand at a fast rate. So there, you know, in the real estate game, unless you find somebody that just won the lottery and pays you a one cap on your park, there really isn't much luck in it, right? I mean, you catch some lucky breaks here and there, but it's, 90% of people wouldn't save 50 grand at 26 at all. And then also write it one check and watch your balance go all the way to zero. That was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life because, as I mentioned at the beginning, I did grow up not poor. I wouldn't call us poor, but we didn't have extras, right? To save 50 grand, I was like the richest person ever for my family to ever exist. And then I wrote a check and took it right to zero.
Yeah, you invested in yourself, right? Like, or you bet on yourself. You bet on yourself that like this is exactly, where I want to go. I see the opportunities here. Even if no one else believes me, I'm going to bet on myself. And I think that in and of itself is one of those things that only a few people can actually do. They cannot actually like watch it all run away. And so outside of the associations, what was your boot camp? You started meeting people. Tell me a little bit about your Facebook strategy. I think this is something I want to push on too, which I'm guessing has led you to a lot of conversations.
Yeah. So when I first started becoming, a little bit successful, I was always really scared to post about it. And then, after kind of thinking about it, I changed my mindset on posting about, I'm not going to get on there and, because I'm not going to get on there and say like, oh my God, I'm the richest ever and you people are nothing. But the point is, you see people all the time say, oh man, I'm struggling financially or I'm hurting for cash. And that's okay. But the moment you have money and you start to display that success and talk about how you do it, that becomes, oh, he's braggy. He's all that. And they put you in this box of like a greedy person. But if I was talking about how poor I was, everyone would be on there, keep your chin up, keep your head up. So My Facebook strategy is the same exact as my life strategy. So I try to make sure that I see, even through, obviously I'm just like everybody else where I have negative things happen to me, but I try to pull the learning aspect from that negative experience and turn it into more of a positive. So, I post a lot of positivity and I post a lot about my successes on Facebook. And I was just talking with an investor. He met me from Facebook just for me posting about my deals. And he messaged me and I called him. And within a couple hours, he's like, hey, I have a couple $1 million that I would like to put to work and I want you to find the parks for me. So, posting about, if I was to get on there and talk about how shitty the world was or how terrible the president is or, all this negative garbage, then why would somebody want to bet $2 million on me? They wouldn't. So, your Facebook these days is your image, even more so than how you present yourself in real life.
That's a great way to put it too. And one thing I found so I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. What I find fascinating with social media strategy is you build a lot of passive relationships with people. Like even if they're not commenting, engaging on everything, they're still watching you, right? Mm-hmm. And over time, there might be a point where they just snap and they're like, I got to reach out to this guy. Like, yeah, this guy's got something different. I'm interested in seeing what he's doing. And I've had so many conversations off that. And I haven't even, sometimes I'm not even posting anything mobile home related. And so I think you've done a very good job of just saying like, this is what I'm working on. What's going on here? This is something that I'm doing. I just closed my most recent park. And those types of stories, one, get attention. Right? It gets attention when people see someone else as being successful, which is very good. And then two, on top of that, you start to pique people's interest. And if you do that consistently over a long period of time, it just is snowballs. So how long ago did you start doing social media?
I started focusing really hard on it about a couple years ago, I would say. I started joining the group, but really I've gotten the most active once you guys started your group, because there's people that I don't know necessarily, but I know their names and they're in that group. So it's like, of course I have this, it's not a dream, it's a goal, but I mean, I have this goal where, one day when people are getting into the business, they see me comment on their stuff and they get all giddy about it. You know what I mean? That, cool. Oh my God, Corey Woodruff's comment. That's the goal,
Yeah. And so talk a little bit about your goals, and then I'd love to talk a little bit about your deal sourcing strategy, because I think that's something you do extraordinarily well. Tell me a little bit about your goals and how those evolved over the past couple of years, and how do you kind of came into those for what you want?
Yeah. So basically I would say 1 year ago, I wanted to have 1,000 lots in 10 years. Today it's looking like I'm going to have 1,000 before December. We have, yeah. So, I mean, right now we have, 266. We have a couple closings that are scheduled for this month. Due diligence is done. They're ready to go. And that'll add another 250 right there. But it is looking like it is an extremely good possibility that we are at 1,000. But by December 31st, 2022, I would like to be at 5,000. 5,000 lots. And the great thing about a goal that's that big is if you fail by half, you're still doing good.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so how are you finding deals? Like, it seems like you're every couple times a month, you're posting a deal in a different state.
Yeah. So basically, and again, it goes back to like having those limited beliefs. So a year ago, I was thinking, once I sell one of my parks, I'm going to hire 2 full-time callers and they're going to call for me and I'm going to pay them hourly. And then, I felt like that's not really fair to me. I mean, I'm a head of sales at a timeshare company, and my bosses, they pay me well and I love them and all that, but they don't pay me unless I make them money.
Yeah.
So I've actually convinced 2 people to make very good deals, and that's to call for me for free. And then when they when they get a deal, they're pitching it off to me and they're getting half of my 1% acquisition fee. So the person who drug their feet the most and fought me on it is the one who got the $7.85 million. So he's about to some big money. So he's more motivated than ever. And the other caller is even more motivated than ever. So
do you do any calling yourself on the initial call, or are you more on just the second call?
No, I do calling on my own as well. Yeah. Because I don't want to have to split a fee with everybody,
I don't blame you. And so right. How many calls do you think you're pumping out a week?
I would say 150, but I would also say this: the number of calls isn't as important as the quality of them. So when I hit 150, I'm not jumping up and down. I'm thinking I probably didn't get a ton done. So that's always the goal, is to have 150 quality calls. But I'm just as happy when I only can get 50, as long as it's not because I was lazy that week, right? If I'm getting off the phone, if I'm looking down my call list and I'm noticing that I spent an average of 3 minutes on each call, no relationship was built. When they are ready to sell, they're not calling me.
Yeah. Okay. And so you do a lot of cold calls. You have 2 cold callers who are doing free, but they're getting compensating extraordinarily well. Like that guy's going to, if you have a $7 million deal, then that means, he's going to get $35,000, from finding the right guy at the right time. Do you have any strategies that you're using to get in front of sellers that allow you to be successful?
Yeah. I think the big mistake that people make when they call is they call and they say, "Hey, my name's Corey, and I'm wondering if you're interested in selling."
Yep.
And then what do you hear? No. And you don't have much to go on. Okay? You don't have much to go on there. So I call and I say, "Hey, is this Mike?" And he says, yeah, it's Mike. I say, hey, how you doing today, Mike? And he'll say, good. I'm like, all right, well, at this point, you're kind of wondering why some guy's asking you how you're doing and you don't even know who I am. Look, I own a bunch of parks. You own a park. I want to buy yours. Does that interest you? So now I'm not saying, are you interested in selling? I'm telling him that I want to buy your park. And then, so it changes like the trajectory of the conversation from, are you interested, to I'm interested. I'm interested in buying your park. And then when they say no, the average person is just saying, okay, thanks, keep me in mind, and hanging up. I'm going to say, well, look, is it no forever? Are you passing it to the kids? Well, no, and then he'll start going into it. And then the moment he starts talking off tape, then you're in. And then you're starting to ask him, you say, hey, you've been in the business for a long time. You said you own the park 20 years. And sometimes I'll lie about my age. I'll say I'm 35 or they're 28 or whatever. And I'll say, but what got you into the business? Any tips for me? So then they start beating on their chest, trying to teach the young buck how to do the business, right? Yep. And then you start to transform from a voice on the phone to maybe the son that won't take over the park for him and wants nothing to do with anything because his dad owns it. And maybe you can turn yourself into that son that he could never get to do what he wanted to do. And next thing you know, he's like, well, you know what, pitch me a number. So it's just taking it up a notch. I used to just say, hey, interested in selling and keep going. But what a waste of time that is, man.
Yeah, you only get this. I've been cold calling for years, and I like your strategy. I have a much smaller geography, so I don't have full-time callers, which actually I like that idea, or people who are willing to call on your behalf. But one thing a lot of people, they only looking for, like, if you hire someone out of the Philippines or something, like they're only getting very, very, very low hanging fruit. Like, thing selling, no, okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah.
And selling, no, thanks, bye. It's like you're getting the only very, very desperate people. The thing is, there's so many people calling nowadays. You're looking at, these are just turds. And so, to your point, do you think this strategy could be used for someone maybe that doesn't have a sales team or something like that? How would you structure something like that if maybe you didn't have the people within the timeshare that you do?
Yeah, I think interns is a good way to do it. One of my partners uses a lot of interns. If you're new into the business and you think someone's just going to come work for you and you haven't had any success yet and they're going to do it for free, you're probably setting yourself up for failure. At first, you need to do it yourself. It's kind of like, a manager, if, let's just pretend you had a job that you did for 20 years and they threw in a manager that had never did the job before in their life, and you're supposed to follow that guy. You're probably not going to have much respect for him. So it's always you at first. So, there was every Monday and Tuesdays, those were my days off. I would come in at 8 in the morning and leave at 7 at night. I would just come into my office at work and call nonstop. Wow. And, so that, at first it's just you until you see some success with it.
Right. So you're recommending get that reference experience before you try to teach someone else how to do something that you don't even do.
Well, and it's like the success aspect of it is where you can show and lure people in. It's like the job that I do. It's 100% commission, and most people, they see that and they run for the hills. If they knew what income I was making, they'd be like, I want involved in this, right?
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks so much for your time.
Well, once I hit 1,000 lots, you just invite me back on. But I will refuse to do this if I don't get a background like yours. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Hey, man, once you hit that goal, it sounds like you're well on your way. We can definitely make something happen for you, man.
Fair enough, man. Cool.
All right, bud. Well, thanks so much.
Entrepreneurs make mistakes, but with the overwhelming amount of free information out there, you don't have to be doomed to making those same mistakes. You just have to find a consolidated version of the most important information. What if I told you I'll gift you all of my DD mistakes I've made over the years for free? Just leave me a 5-star review, screenshot the review after it goes live, and email it to me at my website, archimedesgrp.com. Afterwards, join our Facebook group, Mobile Home Park Mastermind. You'll find hundreds of other mobile home park owners sharing ideas, contractors, and deals. It's free to join, and we would absolutely love having you join us.